Hi everybody, welcome back to another James Bond review. This time we are reviewing The Living Daylights, 1987. A Timothy Dalton James Bond this time. This is the first Timothy Dalton of two James Bond movies that he was in, and it comes 2 years after the release of A View to a Kill, the final Roger Moore movie. That is a lot of information to take in all at once. I'll give you a little bit of time. That's enough time. As I said, it's a 2-year break from Roger Moore, and it very well could have actually starred Pierce Brosnan as James Bond, and was going to happen if not for the final moments. When they were casting for this film, they were looking for an actor that could actually portray James Bond, as they always do. I think it was Sam Neill was at one point the favourite, the absolute, everybody loved him, except for Cubby Broccoli. Cubby Broccoli said, no, he's not right for James Bond. Then they looked at a gentleman by the name of Timothy Dalton. Now, Timothy Dalton had been offered the role all the way back in, 1971, possibly? 72? Whenever they were casting for Live and Let Die, which was Roger Moore's first film, they were looking at an actor for James Bond before Roger Moore, and Timothy Dalton was one of the actors that had popped up, but Timothy Dalton at the time was too young, and he said so. He said to the producers, look, I would love to be James Bond, but I'm too young for the role. Don't come to me yet. You need someone in their mid to late 30s. That is the role. So he respectfully declined the offer, didn't even screen test for the role. But Cubby Broccoli thought, you know what, this guy's pretty good. We're going to go back to this guy. And then again, when Roger Moore was going to retire after Moonraker, which was 1979, with Moonraker, they looked again. And they went back to Timothy Dalton, and Timothy Dalton again said, no, I'm okay at the moment. I'm still a bit too young and everything like that. And he also didn't really like the way the movies were progressing after Moonraker. He thought they were becoming too fantastical, a little bit too science fiction, and that wasn't for him. He wanted a grounded Bond. So when this film here was being cast, producers actually went back to Timothy Dalton again. And this time here, Timothy Dalton was interested. He was now in his late 30s, and he thought to himself, yeah, this role's right for me. But he still wasn't happy with how the James Bond film series had been handled up to this point. He wanted a more grounded, a more serious approach to Bond. And the producers were on board for that. They were going to tailor the script toward him, and they really wanted Timothy Dalton. So Timothy Dalton wanted to do the movie, but he was about to start shooting the movie Brenda Starr, which would have delayed filming, and they couldn't do that. So Timothy Dalton was out. He was gone now. And now they had to look for another James Bond again. And that's when Cubby Broccoli remembered an actor by the name of Pierce Brosnan. Now, all the way back during For Your Eyes Only, Cassandra Harris was in that movie. She played Countess Lucille, I believe her name was in that. It's been a while since I've watched it again. But she was in the movie, and she was at the time married to Pierce Brosnan. Now, Pierce Brosnan came to set, obviously, to visit her and everything like that. And producers looked at this guy and they thought, let us remember this guy because he's got the chops. We think he could be a good Bond one day. And lo and behold, many years later, Pierce Brosnan actually screen tested for the role as James Bond. And the screen tests are up online. He did a fantastic, phenomenal job to the point where he was actually cast as James Bond, offered the role, he accepted. He was cast as James Bond. Unfortunately, he was also in a TV show at the time called Remington Steele, which was at an end. But there was still an option. They had a 60-day option, the production company, that said if they chose to, they could rejig his contract to bring him back to continue filming Remington Steele. And on day, as I've heard, and I've heard a couple of different things, but on the final days of this 60-day contract running out, they renewed Remington Steele again for another season. And Cubby Broccoli said, Remington Steele will not be James Bond, and James Bond will not be Remington Steele. And they pulled the offer from Pierce Brosnan, at which point Brenda Starr had finished filming, and Timothy Dalton was now available again. And one weekend later, Timothy Dalton was on set filming his first scenes in Gibraltar, which was the training mission at the beginning of the film. What a roller coaster of a casting session that was when you really think about it. Because, I mean, Pierce Brosnan is a wonderful James Bond. He really is. Throughout the 90s and the early 2000s, he really brought James Bond to the mainstream. You've really got to think about it. I grew up watching Pierce Brosnan throughout the 90s, and the fact that he could have been cast in 1987 and we could have had 10 plus years of Pierce, that's like, I don't even know how to process that. In saying that though, we've got Timothy Dalton, and although Timothy Dalton only did 2 Bond movies, what he gives us here in both films, but in this one especially, in The Living Daylights, is fantastic. And I'm going to be completely upfront here and say that this is in my top 10 James Bond movies. Since I recorded and uploaded A View to a Kill, I have watched this movie no less than 15 times over that period of time. I've just had it on in the background. I've watched it on the big screen that I've got in my theatre room. I've watched it on my monitors. I've had split screen going at each point. I've had it on my phone at work. I've listened to it. I've had it every possible area in my life. This movie has been playing, and I never get sick of it. This movie I can have on repeat daily, 24/7, and I will always watch this movie. It is one of my favourite Bond films of all time, and I really don't have I don't have many downsides, I should say. There are always downsides, but this movie here from beginning to end is brilliant. Now, when it comes to the plot of this movie, it can be a little bit confusing. And even me, someone who's watched it 15 times, let's say this month, it still confuses me when I'm watching it a bit. So the movie begins as a training mission in Gibraltar. You've got 3 00 agents. They skydive out of a plane, land on this like little island, which is like a little training mission that they've got going on. And it's all with paintball guns and things like that. So if you get shot, you're out of it, you're finished, move on, and that's how it is. So at this point here, we're introduced to Timothy Dalton for the first time. And we're introduced to him at the exact moment that one of his fellow agents is murdered. He's climbing up a rock face, and someone cuts the line just after they've put a note down the rope, which says "Smert Spionen," which is death to spies. And the agent sees it, and then sees the guy cut the rope, and then falls to his death. And Bond hears the screams, runs over, sees the enemy running away, and gives chase. And jumps on the back of this guy's Jeep, fighting each other. The Jeep explodes as it goes off a cliff, and Bond has got a parachute, and he's just falling down. And it is a wonderful opening because you get to see just how cut to the chase Timothy Dalton is. He's ruthless, he is deadly, and he's fantastic. Like, I know the stunt people are doing all the big stunts. I get that, but I don't see it in this film. In this film here, I'm just seeing Bond. I'm not noticing Stuntman and Timothy Dalton. And I think that was the major problem with Roger Moore's later era, is that I was seeing Roger Moore, James Bond, Stuntman. And credit to all of their work because it is brilliant, but I just want to see one person on screen and believe that it's the same person across the actor and the stunt performer. I don't want to see, Timothy Dalton, stunt performer. And this film here perfectly blends the two of them together, and you just see one person throughout the whole film, and that's what I love. And the opening sequence, as I said, in Gibraltar, is just a wonderful, wonderful opening to Timothy Dalton, a wonderful introduction to Timothy Dalton as James Bond. It's a quick scene. It's like 5 minutes beginning to end. We jump into the title sequence, which is the Living Daylights song, as sung by a-ha, the one-hit wonders that they are, but brilliant. This song here, again, I've had this song going the entire month. I've listened to it on repeat at work today about 5 or 6 times. I love both versions of it. Now, there are 2 versions of this song. I don't know if people are aware of that. I wasn't aware of it until about 10 years ago, that obviously John Barry rearranges or produces the title songs and brings a motif into the title songs that he can then use throughout the film. Like an undercurrent of musical elements from the movie, he brings it into the theme song, and it works perfectly. But a-ha released their own version of this, and it's a slight bit different. If you ever get a chance, and if I can put it into this review, you'll hear it. If not, search it on YouTube and listen to them back to back. There is a difference, and I like them just as much as each other. I still prefer the John Barry version, but the a-ha version, I still like it just as much. It's still brilliant. But after this title sequence is over, we move into the movie itself. And the beginning of the film is apparently, and I haven't read the books, so forgive me, I am a Bond fan of the movies. I haven't read the Ian Fleming novels. I apologise. Yell at me if you wish. Put it in the comments, whatever you want to do. Forgive me, though. But the movie begins with Bond going to the opera. Or not even the opera. It's more of a musical performance. So he goes to this musical performance and meets up with the head of Section V, Vienna, and that's Saunders, an agent by the name of Saunders. And already at the beginning of this part here, Saunders rubs you up the wrong way. He's completely dismissive of Bond. Bond's interested in the cellist, which is played by, I was going to say Cara Malovy. That's her name. Cara Malovy is the cellist. She's played by Mariam Diabo. Beautiful woman. Absolutely stunning woman. And Bond, she catches his eye, and Bond's looking at her, whereas Saunders wants to talk about the mission. So once they go across the street into this, like a little apartment building, an apartment, yeah. Once they go across the street, it's here that we get the mission, which is that Saunders has arranged for a KGB general, Koskov, that's his name, Georgy Koskov, to defect. And he's coming to the British, but he needs James Bond to take out a sniper because he's being tailed or watched. He's got pretty much KGB minders with him at all times. And the only way Koskov can escape them is by going into the bathroom, opening up a window, and then escaping through there onto the street. At which point, there's a sniper in the window watching. And the sniper just happens to be Cara Malovy. And she's aiming the weapon. Bond grabs his sniper rifle, but instead of shooting her, he shoots the actual sniper rifle itself, which explodes in her arm, and she gets a bit of damage on her arm. But they get Koskov. Bond and Saunders are butting heads throughout the whole part of how to get him across the border into Vienna, which is done through a pipeline. And after this, Bond is pretty much telling Saunders, look, stuff your mission. It was all done. Yes, I didn't kill the sniper, but I definitely scared the living daylights out of her. And that 5 to 10 minute sequence there is such an amazing sequence that if that had been the introduction to Timothy Dalton's James Bond, I would have been just as happy. Like, if we had opened the movie with Bond and Saunders getting Koskov out of Bratislava and into Vienna, and then when he says, because the scene ends with Bond saying, whoever it was, whoever she was, it scared the living daylights out of her. If that had then cut to the title song, The Living Daylights, I would have I think I would have died. Like, every time I watch that part and Bond says that in the car, I'm always expecting the theme song to kick in. It never does, but I'm always waiting for the theme song to kick in. And if someone make an edit of that, please put that up online so I can watch that version of the movie. But yeah, what an amazing two sequences we have so far of Timothy Dalton as James Bond. And what a way for the audience to just get into this character. Because he's not making any quips. He's not making any jokes. He's just serious, deadly serious about his job. And he doesn't care. He does not care if M fires him. He doesn't care if Saunders doesn't like. He's not there to be liked. He's there to get in there, do his job, kill a professional, which Kara wasn't, and rescue Koskov. And he does all of those things. And I'm always blown away. Every time I watch Living Daylights, the first 20 minutes of this movie, 15 minutes of this movie, I am just in awe of what's on screen. And I think the writing is top notch. The directing by John Glenn, returning. This is now his fourth James Bond movie. Fantastic. Like, all the players of this movie, all the main players of this movie are introduced within these sequences here. And it really does give you can the rest of the movie hold up? Because these are pretty damn phenomenal. But needless to say, it does. So after this, after they get Koskov and he defects to the British, which is great, he then explains his plan, which is that General Pushkin, I almost forgot his name, General Pushkin, which is the head of the KGB, has now said he's given the order Smert Spionen, which is death to spies. And he's going to go out there and start killing British agents, secret agents. And in the first mission, which was the training mission in Gibraltar, that's why the agent was killed. That's why that single agent was killed, because death to spies. And Koskov is saying, well, Pushkin is out there trying to do this. He's lost his mind. He's gone crazy. You need to kill him. And M is talking with Bond and says, look, I've known this guy. I know that he's a good friend of ours. We've got good relations with the KGB at the moment. But if he's out there killing people, and Koskov is telling us this, Bond, you need to go kill him. And Bond is like, I will do it. But first of all, I have to go back to Bratislava. I have to go back to the Czechoslovakia and speak with this female cellist who is Kara Malovi, which is also the assassin. So when he goes there and speaks with her, it's after Koskov, he's been kidnapped from a hideaway house by a guy called Necros, who is an assassin, we believe at this point working for the KGB. Necros, who breaks into this place as a milkman, breaks into this place, goes through the kitchen and kills a couple of people, blows up half the building, gets Koskov, jumps on an ambulance helicopter, and they fly away. At which point Bond goes back to Bratislava, meets up with Kara Malovi, pretends to be Koskov's friend because he wants to find out what Kara knows, because he does not trust Koskov. Because now that Koskov's been kidnapped again, he's like, something's going on. And he also knows that the bullets that she was using in the sniper rifle were blanks. And Koskov was defecting. So he gave blank bullets to Kara to pretend to shoot him, who was defecting, and then was asking for Bond to kill the sniper. And we find out that Koskov and Kara are girlfriend and boyfriend. They're in love together. Or so she believes. So Bond says, I've got to get you out of Bratislava and I've got to get you to Vienna, even though you're being watched by the KGB. And there is another amazing sequence with James Bond's Aston Martin V8, and it is one of my favourite car sequences in all of James Bond. And I know that I love the Lotus Esprit sequence in The Spy Who Loved Me, and this sequence here is probably just as good and just as action-packed. Like, you get every single gadget you can think of being used, and it is almost like a massive updated version of the Aston Martin DB5, which was used in Goldfinger. Like, instead of the spikes on the tyres, this one here's got a laser that cuts through the entire bottom of a pursuing police car. Instead of machine guns at the front in the headlights, this car here's got rockets that shoot out and explode. It's also got bulletproof glass. It's got a police radio scanner in the radio of the car. There's a sequence where they go out onto the ice, like the river, icy river, and the front tire of the car gets blown off, and Bond uses it, goes in a circle around a police car on the ice, and because it's only the rim of the steel rim, it cuts through the ice, and the police car sinks into the ice, and it's always makes me laugh when I see it. But he puts out the outrigger on the side, and these two like ski pads drop down from the side of the car. Spikes come out of the tires. It's got a rocket booster on the back and a self-destruct mechanism just in case he gets caught. And you see all of it in this movie, and it is phenomenal. That's a 5 to 10 minute sequence where Bond is just pure action. And the way they escape is fantastic, because there was a moment before this where Bond and Cara are in the Aston Martin escaping KGB, and she tells Bond, I have to go back and get my my cello. And he's like, no, we're being chased. There is no way we're going back. Anyway, she eventually convinces him. Bond hits his head with the cello case, gets it into the Aston Martin, looks pissed off all the while doing it. And then when he sets the self-destruct on the Aston Martin, they then use the cello case flat, opened up and flat, on the snow, and they like sled down the snow across the border into Vienna, and they're dodging bullets. There's KGB chasing them with machine guns, shooting at them, and they completely and utterly escape. And it is so awesome to see it, especially because you actually see Timothy Dalton and Mariam Diabo on this sled at that time. Like, it's just, there are so many good things about this movie, and that's just a couple of them right there. And the entire movie continues like that. Eventually you find out that there's another character involved with Koskov and Necros, because Necros, which is the assassin, is like the henchman to Koskov. And then you find out that Koskov is working with another guy called Brad Whitaker. Now, Brad Whitaker in this movie, he's kind of, I don't really like this character. This is one of my negative points about this movie. So the whole idea is that there's $50 million that the KGB have given to Brad Whitaker to buy weapons for the KGB. Brad Whitaker, though, along with General Koskov, are using this $50 million to buy opium, to then sell the opium at a profit. Then they're going to use the money to buy weapons for the KGB and some for Whitaker too, and still have profit and money on the side. It is an extremely convoluted plot. Now, because they're doing this with the money, and they're kind of like being shady toward the KGB and trying to get the British involved, they're only getting the British involved because they're trying to use the MI6 James Bond to kill General Pushkin, who is aware that something shady is happening between Brad Whitaker and Koskov. Now, if that doesn't make any sense, I'm sorry. It is confusing as hell in the movie, and you really have to pay attention to understand what's going on. And the entire movie is a massive traveling point of this movie. Like, there is so much going on. We go from London to Czechoslovakia to Vienna. Then we go to Tangier. Then we go to Afghanistan. Then we go back to Tangier. Then back to Vienna. There are so many sequences in this movie, and so many fantastic action sequences in this movie. And it's a refreshing thing to see after watching A View to a Kill, where everything kind of felt, as I mentioned in that review, everything kind of felt a little bit sluggish, but you could also tell that Roger Moore was older. You could see he was more matured. He had aged so much, and you could see that he was fighting older people. He was just, everything about the film was slower and sluggish and this and that. And I did not like the Bond girl in that. In this film here, you've got a younger Bond, even though Timothy Dalton is like 40, I believe, at this point. You've got a younger Bond, a sexy as hell Bond girl in Cara Mallovi. You've got a little bit of a convoluted plot, but it's still a solid plot, and it's a globe-trekking plot. Like, there is... Why are we going to Afghanistan? Well, we need to go to Afghanistan because of these reasons and these reasons. And it's got a fantastic henchman. Like, Necros is brilliant. And I'm going to find out the actor's name because credit where it's deserved here. And the actor's name is Andreas Wisniewski. I believe that's how you pronounce it. And if you know that guy, he's one of the henchmen in Die Hard. And he's also in Mission Impossible. He's the one that puts the mask over Tom Cruise's head in the first Mission Impossible movie when Tom Cruise or Ethan Hunt is going to meet Job. And he's brilliant in this movie. Like, first of all, the physique on this guy is, whoa, crazy. This guy is amazing. Now, he was apparently a model and a dancer. They found him, they liked him, they put him in this movie. And there's one sequence where you can see when he's in the kitchen and he's going through the kitchen area and fighting one of the agents in there. And some of the moves that he pulls off just look a little bit weird. The rest of it, wow. And even there's an entire sequence where Bond and Necros are fighting on the back of like one of those massive cargo planes, and they've just taken off from the airbase, and Kara's piloting the plane, and Bond goes in the back to dismantle a bomb, to stop the timer on the bomb. And Necros attacks Bond. Bond hits the opening at the back, and the cargo thing drops down. And the opium, which is trapped in this massive net, is hanging out the back, and it's only hung on by like hooks. And Bond and Necros are fighting in the netting on the back as it flaps up and down in the wind like that. And the sequence is jaw-dropping. And trust me, I watched this on the big screen with the sound system on, and with the camera pulled all the way back, and you can see the plane and the stunt actors flapping around and fighting. Wowee, like, it just blows you away how dedicated these guys are to the performance, how the stunt work is just top notch, and it deserves Oscars, deserves credit. Like, stunt workers, if we didn't have stunt performers, we wouldn't have movies nowadays. They are just fantastic, and it's so good, like, I love it. And Timothy Dalton in this movie is, like, I always say that George Lazenby is my favourite Bond. But watching this movie so many times over this month has proven to me that George Lazenby is not my number one. That's all I'm going to say. And I will say more, actually. No, stuff that. I will say more. George Lazenby is no longer my number one James Bond. And he has been my number one James Bond for about 15 years. But I have never watched this movie as many times as I have right this month. And easily, Timothy Dalton is my number one James Bond. He absolutely destroys the screen. He is so good in this movie. He's deadly, vicious, but sweet. Like, the moments between him and Cara, when he's romancing her, I absolutely loved it. Like, I cannot say enough good things about this movie, and I'm always blown away every single time I watch this movie. And one of the other things I really like about this film is that in the opening moments of this movie, Saunders and Bond are butting heads. They do not like each other. Bond is dismissive of Saunders. Saunders is dismissive of Bond, wants to dob him in because he didn't complete the mission. He didn't shoot the sniper. Bond's like, stuff your orders, I don't care. This is how I'm doing the mission. You don't see Saunders for like another hour and a bit in this film. And then Whitaker says to Koskov, you need to go out and force MI6's hands so they kill Pushkin because he's getting close. He wants his money back. So Koskov says to Necros, you need to go out there and kill another agent. And unfortunately, Saunders is that agent. And the reason I say unfortunately is because Bond is starting to piece things together, but he's not quite there between what's going on with Kara and what's going on with Koskov. So he says to Saunders, listen, I need you to do this for me. I need you to organise a passport for Kara. I need you to do this. And Saunders pretty much says, listen, if I do this, I'm going to lose my pension. You understand this? And Bond's like, this is important. I need this. And in that moment, Saunders goes, okay, I'll do it for you. And he does. He comes through. Like a couple of hours later, he meets up with Bond. They have like a coffee together. And it's at this point here that Bond and Saunders agree with each other. And finally, there's mutual respect there. And Saunders leaves, having gained Bond's respect, and then dies. And Bond, Timothy Dalton, runs outside. A balloon is like laying next to Saunders' body. He grabs the balloon. It says "Smeared Spionen" on it. And he pops the balloon. He just breaks it. And he's pissed. He's pissed. Now he's like, now I have to go after General Pushkin. Now I've got to kill this guy. Because he was putting it off. Now he's going for him. And it's those little moments that Timothy Dalton does that, where you just think there is no other Bond as good as this guy. Like, he's the best of the best. Now, I know everyone's fallen in love with Daniel Craig, and I know Daniel Craig does this and that. Daniel Craig's got nothing on Timothy Dalton. Let me just say that. If it wasn't for Timothy Dalton, you wouldn't even have a Daniel Craig. Now, the rest of the cast in this movie, top notch. I love Mariam Diabo. She's beautiful. She's good in this movie. She's really good in this movie. And I like that she's the only Bond girl in this film. Like, you've got the girl in the Gibraltar training mission at the very beginning where Bond lands on like the sailboat. And obviously he beds this woman. But she's in it for maybe 35 seconds. Kara's in it for the whole film. She's introduced as soon as we come back from the title sequence. She's there. She's the cellist. She's the sniper. She's Koskov's girlfriend. And she's with Bond throughout the whole film until the very end. And I absolutely love it. I don't think there are any negatives to this film apart from Brad Whitaker. I don't really like his involvement in the film. I find that if you just change the plot slightly and got rid of him, you could still have effectively the same movie without him, but it feels like he needs to be there so that there's a big bad that Bond has to go up against at the end of the film. Because he doesn't kill Koskov in this movie. Necros dies, Koskov doesn't. Koskov is just sent back to Russia. He's fine. Pushkin understands what Bond's doing, and yeah, but Brad Whitaker, every time this guy's on screen, I'm like, all right, do you really need to be there? And he's not in the film that much, like maybe 15 minutes of the movie is dedicated to anything to do with Brad Whitaker. But it's the fact that those 15 minutes are there in the film. It just kind of feels, I don't know, he's there, I guess. He's there. Yeah, I don't know. Look, this movie here is, like I said, easily in my top 10. Could possibly be in my top 5, but I'm going to save that until I finish this entire review, or all of these reviews. And I don't really think there's anything else I can say about this film other than the musical score by John Barry. And it's actually John Barry's final musical score for James Bond. He makes an appearance in this movie at the end in Vienna as the would you call it the orchestra? No, the composer, I guess. The maestro. Let's say the maestro. He's actually playing there at the very end of the movie. So he gets his first on-screen appearance and his final credit as composer for the James Bond franchise. And it's probably his best musical score. Like, there are so many fantastic tracks in this movie, especially when Bond's on his mission in Gibraltar, his training mission. There's the action sequence on the snow. All of the action music in this film is top-notch. Like, it is, beginning to end, the musical score is fantastic. I own the musical score. I mean, I even own this film on VHS twice. It's there and there. I own the movie twice. That's how much I adore this movie. And funny enough, when I purchased, you can see them there, they're like the tan brownish colour. When I purchased it on VHS, the first Timothy Dalton movie I purchased was The Living Daylights, and I loved it as back in the day. And my mum actually is a big James Bond fan, and she said to me, "Oh, Timothy Dalton, how many Bond movies was he in?" And I said, "Oh, he's in 2 films. He's in The Living Daylights and License to Kill." And Mum goes, "Oh, okay. Do you want me to buy you the other one on video?" And I said, "Oh, yeah, please, Mum, that'll be great." So my mum went out, purchased it, and she purchased another copy of The Living Daylights because she said to me later on, I got confused, The Living and License. I didn't think they both had 3 words in them. And I'm like, fair point, Mum, fair point. So then I went out after that and I brought License to Kill myself. So I own 2 copies of The Living Daylights, which I'm not going to complain about that. I also own the soundtrack, which is down here somewhere. So also not going to complain because I love the movie and I love the soundtrack, which is down there. So, to me, it all screams thumbs up. Now, that's the review of the film. Yeah, let's go with that. That's my review of The Living Daylights. Now what I have to do is talk about Bond's kill count. But let's start off... the kill count. Now, Bond in this film kills 7 people. He kills the assassin on the training mission in Gibraltar. He eventually kills Necros by kind of like, well, watch the film. It's the plane sequence. They're hanging off, and Bond actually uses his knife to cut the shoelaces off his boot, and Necros is holding onto it and falls out to his death. And wow, what a moment! Then he drops a bomb from the plane, which drops onto a bridge, which kills a tank crew, and there's a crew of like 4 people. And then at the very end of the movie, he kills Brad Whitaker. So that's a total of 7 kills in this film. He visits 6 individual locations. We've got Gibraltar, Bratislava, which is in Czechoslovakia. Then he goes to London, then Vienna, then Tangier, then Afghanistan. So 6 locations here. And finally, for women bedded, he's got the woman on the boat at the very beginning of the film, and then Kara. And that's it. That's literally it. Throughout the whole film, it's like a walking mission or an escort mission in video games. He's got Kara with him the entire time. And she does not know that Bond is trying to find Koskov to potentially kill him. She just believes that Bond and Koskov are friends and Bond's trying to find Koskov. And then when she eventually finds out what's going on by getting in contact with Brad Whitaker, who passes the phone on to Koskov, she is told that Bond is actually a KGB assassin trying to kill Koskov. And she poisons Bond and then instantly regrets it when he tells her, that mark on your hand, that bruise, that was because I shot the gun out of your arm. And it's, look, from beginning to end, The Living Daylights, top movie. If you haven't watched it, go out and watch it. I highly recommend it. And what a fantastic opening to Timothy Dalton's run as James Bond. And I know, like I said, I know he's only in 2. But wow, he leaves his mark on this franchise. And it is a wonderful mark to leave. Now, just as a little thingamabob, a little update to everybody. First of all, I want to say thank you to everybody that watches. I checked my analytics. It says that 97% of the people watching my videos are not subscribed. So if you could subscribe, that would be fantastic because it would put me a lot more than like 68 people subscribed. But again, if you don't want to subscribe, I totally understand. That's fine. I'm not going to push anyone. I'll just say, please subscribe. If not, that's fine. If you like the content, thumbs up. If not, I understand. And if you want to leave a comment telling me who your favorite James Bond is, and let me know what you think about this film. Is it the plot too convoluted? Am I the only one that finds Brad Whitaker a bit of a waste? And is Cara Mallovi the sexiest Bond girl up to this point? And if not, why is she still the sexiest Bond girl up to this point? Let me know in the comments below. I would honestly love to hear it. And I also would love to hear how you're going, because again, mental health is super important. It is not something that we should only be asking on Are You OK Day. It is something we should be asking every day. So I'm hoping that you're doing well. Are you okay? Let me know in the comments below. Hit me up on Instagram. It's on the screen somewhere around here. Probably on my face, my glasses. I don't know. But let's have a conversation in the comments. I'm always there. Always there. So until I see you next time with License to Kill, have a good one. Take care. Watch some videos on the channel. And Ross will return.